Grow Great is a city government leadership podcast with Lisa Norris and me, Randy Cantrell. Each week we share insights, experiences, and wisdom to help you and your leadership grow great. Our website is growgreat.com.
Well, part one, we talked about a lot about leadership and kind of the challenge that I had with a friend of mine who's in another city, new enroll back in city government, all that good stuff. And we talked about how important it is to have a strategy, to set a strategy, to know your path forward, know where you're going, and get clarity on how you're going to get there. But next is as we, talk about these kind of three questions that came up for us was, what's your primary objective? What do you want to most accomplish? And lastly, what will you deliver? And that's, as we were talking before we clicked record, Randy, we said, it's all those common phrases we've heard: when the rubber meets the road, when the proof is in the pudding, those kind of things. You have to demonstrate and follow through to actually put action from the words that you've been talking about strategy as a leader. You've been talking about where we need to go. Well, now you've got to put the action in place and follow through on that. That's where you gain the trust in leadership. That's where you gain respect. That's where everybody's watching, and they have to see not only are you starting to implement, but you continue to hold forth on what you said you were going to do. You're going to do it, because some of it will be easy, much of it will be hard, and it's staying the course and then modifying that course as needed to make sure you're still heading in the same direction. What we talked about in part one, is it still aligning with the council goals? Is it still aligning what you promised you need to get done for that strategy to be put in place, for the accomplishment, for the legacy you want to leave? Is everything aligning, and are you on a path forward? And you must hold forth to that path.
Yeah.
That's what's critical.
Yeah, I mean, it still, for me, comes back to just a focus on others. And I get that it's really, really hard because we're looking through life through our own lens. But all of these three questions, to me, and especially that last question, just speak to what's your role? What's your contributing role to this whole thing? Because the higher up we go, the work product, our specific, let's just start at a director level. Well, go even lower. I mean, your long-standing tenure in the HR world, okay, a manager, a supervisor role, yes, they've got significant work product, but now they've got responsibility for the work product of other people, not directly, but in that it's their job to do it, but it's their job to help get it done and see that it's done well and on time and properly and effectively and efficiently. And the higher up you go, our work product, our specific work product tends to drop off, but yet our impact is even bigger.
Right.
Because there's more people. And especially if leadership is tethered to authority, and I'll maintain till my dying day, that's as good as it gets. If you're a leader and you've got authority and you've got the ability to access resources and to knock speed bumps and roadblocks out of the way for your people, that's as good as it gets.
Right.
But I think it just speaks to this whole defining the promise of your leadership. And that promise can change because, well, the first question, what's your primary objective? Well, that can change. Like right now, your leadership is very defined by this whole Workday project that you're just embroiled in.
Right.
This is a big deal. It's all hands on deck. It's the elephant in the room, and it's going to be the elephant in the room for a number of months to come.
Right.
So the primary objective for you changed dramatically when all of a sudden, here's the issue. Here's the task at hand. And I think it all speaks to, not to sidetrack the conversation, but I think it just speaks to our adaptability as leaders.
Well, so much
I'm coming
of it,
to believe more and more that leadership, our inability to adapt is what's going to kill it's currently killing an awful lot of leadership because people just cannot adapt. They just can't figure out a way. And some don't want to. Some just want to force square pegs into round holes the rest of their career. Can't do that.
You have to be absolutely acutely aware of what's around you. You have to be acutely aware of the shift. Shift will happen. Shift in priorities, shift in projects, shift in people. There is always a shift. And you're right. You have to be able to adapt to that and still hold forth. That's the connector. You have to hold forth on what is my mission and how do I align it again? Because I've seen it over and over where leaders look at what they needed to fix 2 years ago, they fix it and they think they're done. They mark it checkbox complete. Now we can be now we can be normal. Now we can move on down the road. Well, I've not found it to ever be that way. I may have to work on people for 2 years and get them aligned, and now all the people are good. And then now I've got to get the customer expectation aligned. Well, that causes a shift. But the greatest thing I've found in my experience is ensuring that clarity of the path forward aligns with what you're trying to achieve. And you don't, it's a fine line between what do I need today with the people I have and moving it forward, and what do I need forever regardless of the people I have. In other words, you have to know what is right for the organization and their needs, and how do I align my department and our production of work and our production of relationships, our expectation. What do I need forever as a constant that I must achieve? So many people rely upon almost too much collaboration from their team. I call it letting the inmates run the asylum. They want so badly to make sure their team agrees with them on everything that they let them have so much input that anything different than that input creates frustration. And then they want to react to the frustration and try to make them happy. Right? And idea good. Output bad. In other words, you have to be able to say, okay, what is it the team is looking for, and get their input. What is it we're trying to achieve? If what is your magic wand? If you could fix one thing, what would that look like? And then as a leader, and then you have to evaluate your customers. What is your customer needing? What are they saying that they are not getting? And then you have to determine, now, how do I correct that moving forward? And what does that look like for our team? And you have to make those hard decisions and then explain those decisions and explain those outcomes and say, this is where we are going. And this is why we need to go there. And here's what I've come up with. You can get feedback on that. But really, that path forward is yours to make as a leader. And the further upstream we go in leadership, the further we promote all the way up to city manager, the more impact we have in the expectation to match and mirror those things moving forward, and to make those decisions, understand your team, and then empower them to do. But you have to set the path. And that's where I've often seen the gap, Randy, is that they don't want to upset the apple cart. They just want to do what do your people want you to do. That's never going to align because they have all their independent perspectives. You have to navigate all those perspectives and make it work with what you need your unit to do to deliver outstanding service to the city, to the customers, to the citizens, whoever you're serving in city government. That's who we're answering to. And we won't always please all of them, but we need to align it and make sure it matches our overarching customer perspective, service perspective. And we have to align that moving forward. And that's very hard sometimes for leaders to do because they want to please so much. They want to manage things and not lead them.
Well, we begin the leadership recipe with humility, but that does not mean cowardice. And leadership is not for the coward. There's no place for cowards in leadership. So if you're a people pleaser and you want everybody to be happy with everything, then you might as well just go ahead and turn in your leadership card today. Just tear it up, burn it, and just get in line with people that don't want to lead. So don't con yourself into thinking, well, I'm going to be this collaborative leader and we're going to fully discuss everything and everybody's going to get a vote. Well, you're going to fail. You're just going to fail because it's been said long before I hit the planet, great leaders see the future first. And if you're going to be a great leader, then you see the future more clearly and you also see the path forward more clearly. You mentioned the word explain, which speaks to a hugely important word here, and that's communication. But I would back up because everything that we've talked about so far is congruency. It's easy to talk a certain talk. Lisa's got this series that she does internally at Grand Prairie called Walk the Talk. Well, it's more difficult. Talking the talk is easy. Walking the talk, that's more difficult. That takes a lot more dedication and work. That's congruency. Every day with clients, I hear stories. Sometimes they admit about themselves, but oftentimes it's about others in their organization saying one thing, doing something different. Saying one thing, doing something different. Talking out of one side of their mouth and talking out of the other side of their mouth. And just all the confusion that reigns in an organization when we just don't know what to trust. We can't trust our eyes and we can't trust our ears. We hear one thing, but we see something different and it doesn't make sense to us. And I learned many years ago, it is the number one thing that drives high performers out of an organization. If they're working for somebody and they can't trust what they see versus what they hear, it doesn't resolve. It's difficult. It's really, really frustrating and difficult. So we've got to be consistent, but we've also got to be consistent with, I think, our communication, which for me, I think means a lot of openness. To be as transparent as you can be, fully acknowledging you can't be transparent about everything. You can't divulge everything. We've used the analogy before, mom and dad shouldn't argue in front of the kids. If mom and dad are facing some financial difficulties, we're not dragging our preschoolers in on that.
Right.
We're not going to worry them with that. If we're dealing with high school kids or college age kids that are living at home, okay, we might collaborate.
Might let them under the tent a little bit. Yeah.
So we've got to be able to, to adapt in those situations. But I think if a leader, to define the promise of our leadership, if you don't know what the promise of your leadership is, don't expect your people to help you figure that out.
Right.
You need to bring that to the table. That's what you've been hired for. And you need to figure out what your primary objective. Right now, Lisa's leadership, her primary objective is to spearhead this workday project. And that's consuming, I don't know, what's a number, Lisa? 80%, 90% of your time?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the primary objective. Now that's right now. Is that the sum total of her leadership? No. But right now it's an elephant in the room. What do you most want to accomplish? Well, I'll let you answer it. When it comes to right now, the promise of your leadership, when it comes to this workday, what do you most want to accomplish with that?
We want to have a great project that solves some issues for our users and implements more efficiency and effectiveness. And we need that at all levels. It's really managing change is what it comes down to.
Sure.
Managing change, communicating change, and moving us forward. And it's hard. It's not.
Well, we're talking about an organization-wide change.
Shift.
We're talking about something
Correct.
that impacts every director, every department. It's
every user, from employees to managers. It's going to affect every single person. And my job is to do it what I keep telling the team, our job is to do it well and right. Not always fast, but we have to move fast because we have to meet milestones and target dates.
But
right? So there's this blend.
Imagine trying to collaborate and trying to please everybody and all of the little nuances of what every individual user, every individual director, this is what I want. This is what I think we need.
Well, and that's come up. We've had, and I've had people approach me and say, I hear you're fixing everything.
Right.
And I said, fixing what? But, and they're like, well, I heard you're fixing it. And I said, well, no. And I keep telling them, guys, what I'm hoping for is progress, not perfection.
Yeah, I hear you're the
what
one
I'm hoping
come
for
to
progress.
Get my way.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I told them, please don't imagine that I'm going to fix everything. This is not my department, my rules, my outcomes. What I am doing is challenging thought. What I am doing is saying, well, that process works for you. Does it work for our users? If not, where can we improve it? Keep that in mind. So it's just challenging thought continually of, is that a must have, need to have, want to have? And then how do we navigate that for the users? Because it's very easy to get in our world.
That's
right?
why I think it's cowardly for, a leader to act like they're going to be over and above in collaboration.
Right.
So try that on for size, because give me 10 different directors and I got 10 different agendas, and they see it the way they see it. And I'm not throwing rocks at it. They see it the way they see it. Problem, they don't see the whole picture, which is your job. Your job is to see the bigger picture. And these dominoes do have an effect.
Yeah.
And some things are more difficult than others. Somebody's got to be the lion tamer in the room on this thing. And that's the leader.
Exactly.
That's the leader. So,
and it's not going to be easy for anybody on the project. And I keep telling them this isn't about easy, and it's also not about fast, but it is about right and well.
That's right.
We need to do it right and well by you, by your department processes, and by the user. So we have to blend those, period.
Yep.
And right now we're looking at change orders, which are common, but you're talking about what's our goal. And I said, well, today I don't have enough money for all these change orders, so hard decisions have to be made. And I need more information to make those decisions from the users.
Yeah.
Tell me why we need this. And if you had to cut one, what would it be? Because they all said they need them, but we just can't afford it. So we have to look at what can we do. And again, that path forward, I know the path forward at the end of the day in 18 months. I have to keep communicating the path forward to them. And we have to make choices today that, one, we can implement, and two, that we can afford, because we do not have an endless pot of money. And I have to help them understand that, like the parent, you don't need to see the pot. You just need to know that we're over over the budget.
Well, and I do think
we can't go there, right?
Since you and I both have adult children, I can make this analogy, and it's very valid. In the moment, if we're trying to please our children, if we're trying to please everybody on the team, number one, you're not going to succeed at it, even if you try.
No, you're setting yourself up for failure.
And it will not be the very best decision. And don't rob your people of the opportunity to grow and to develop some appreciation in the future for what they're currently experiencing. They may not see it right now. Don't fault them for that. It's fine. It's all good. We got to move forward. We don't want morale to go down. We want people to be heard, but we need people to understand. Mm-hmm. So we're watching this LSU and Coastal Carolina World Series baseball game the other day. I got my dad here in the house. I've had my dad for a couple of weeks to just give my sister a little bit of a break. And so we're looking for sports to watch. So got him into this College World Series, and in the first inning, Coastal Carolina coaches get tossed out of the game. The first base or the third base coach, or first or third base coach, I can't remember, and the head coach, they get tossed. Admittedly, the trigger got pulled probably way too quick, but they lose their mind, and they're arguing the balls and the strikes. Okay, is anybody seen an umpire call a ball or a strike and because of that heat from a manager, change that call? The answer
Never.
is no. They don't
They
do
don't.
it. They
No.
don't do it. So you're going to have to build a bridge and get over it, figure it out. And we've got to do the same thing as leaders. We can't let the dugout dictate what we know to be the best decision moving forward. But to your
Right.
point, yes, we've got to try like crazy to properly communicate that so people still feel heard, but now they've got at least some degree of understanding. They're not going to fully understand everything, but they've got.
And they probably aren't going to be happy with me at the end of the day. Some group is going to feel like they really needed something they didn't get.
And you've got to be good with that, because if
That's
you're
right.
not good with that, then your days as a leader are over.
That's right.
They just
That's
are.
right.
Because we need people that will lead. We need people that will do the hard stuff. So, yeah, don't acquiesce that. But come on, over-communicate it. If you can, over-communicate it. But give your people enough grace to understand they don't see it right now, but be patient.
And
Be
it's all,
patient.
like you talked about, it's in the delivery. We've got to do what we said we're going to do. We've got to make decisions that we need to make. It's all, when we talk about what will you deliver,
Yep.
it's all, your words are only so good. It is your actions aligning with your words that count at the end of the day. You give your people and those watching you consistency, congruency. What I say is what I do. What I mean is what I say. All of those things have to align at the end of the day for you to establish credibility, trust in your leadership. It's that simple.
Thanks for watching and listening to Grow Great, the City Government Leadership Podcast. Our website is growgreat.com. For Lisa Norris, I'm Randy Cantrell. We hope you'll subscribe to the show, and we hope you'll tell a friend.